Marcus Rashford's been in fine form for Barcelona. After leaving Manchester United,
The time he was leaving, I thought he was a disgrace at United. I'm not trying, basically.
Rashford's been silencing critics and playing like the star we always knew he could be. But here's the problem. While many are talking about his goals and assists, Rashford also made headlines for the wrong reason. One that haunted him at United. He's talented, but the question is, can Rashford escape his past, or is he about to waste the last great chance of his career? Barcelona are flying this season. Week after week, they found themselves crawling back from difficult positions and turning draws into wins. It's not anything new, but in many of those turnarounds, Marcus Rashford was involved. And it's not just for Barcelona, he even scored a goal for England, proving his performances are no fluke. For a moment, it feels like the kid from Manchester has been reborn. Goals, assists, and a spark we hadn't seen in years. Against Newcastle, he cut inside with that trademark shift and curled the ball past the keeper like it was 2019 all over again. The confidence, the swagger, the execution, all of it screamed vintage Rashford. These weren't isolated flashes. For 5 consecutive games, Rashford had either scored or created in decisive moments. And for a player who left Old Trafford under a cloud of doubt, this run of form looked like salvation. Hansi Flick sees it too. The German is ruthless about intensity, pressing, discipline. He'll bench anyone who doesn't buy it. Yet Rashford's directness, his adaptability, his hunger this season, they fit perfectly into Flick's system. But Rashford's story has never been about talent alone. It's about whether he can outrun his old shadows. And that's where a bigger question comes in. Why did Hansi Flick push so hard to sign Rashford, a player haunted by inconsistency, when Barcelona already had one of Europe's most dangerous attacks? Before Flick, Barcelona were stagnant. Under Xavi, the team was praised for its structure and the La Masia talents like Yamal and Kubasi, but often they lacked the cutting edge. Some games slipped away because the team couldn't adapt or impose itself. Xavi made remarks about the club's poor financial state and the difficulty of competing with elite clubs, which resulted in the legend being asked to leave the club. The following season was supposed to be a transition for Barca, but somehow Hansi Flick in just 1 year reshaped the squad's DNA. Flick's philosophy wasn't about rewriting everything, it was adjusting and unleashing what was already there. He asked more of the wide players, encouraged verticality, and they pressed higher, making the team less predictable. The transformation was immediate. Take Rafinha for example. Under Xavi, Rafinha often complained about being subbed off even when he's playing well. He once said, "Sometimes I do everything for 60 minutes and then get taken off." Under Flick, that changed. Rafinha exploded. He posted 34 goals and 22 assists in all competitions. Because he followed Flick's principles of discipline and positional play, he became not just a winger, but a weapon, breaking the minutes per goal ratio he had under Xavi. The same happened to Pedri, who was once pristine with pass and move roles. However, under Flick, Pedri has become sharper in transitions, capable of bombing forward when the moment demands it. Lamine Yamal too was given license to pressure defenders, attack vertical spaces, and change momentum with bursts. Flick's system thrives with players who take risks. He pushed them to be more. This season, Barcelona's offensive numbers underline it. In 7 matches, they've averaged nearly 3 goals per game. They've also become more lethal on set pieces, something that was historically weak for Barca. Every facet of attack is sharper, more aggressive, more decisive. So why Rashford? The reason is simple, because at age 27, he's entering his athletic peak. His style, like Rafinha's, is direct, powerful and fast into channels, fitting exactly the profile Flick has reshaped Barcelona towards. The kind of winger or forward who can break lines, press back defenders, convert moments rather than just maintain possession. Flick needs Rashford not to replace current stars, but to amplify them. He needs a player who can swing games one touch. Rafinha and Yamal laid the groundwork, but with Rashford, Flick is reaching for a player who can stoke that fire even further. Rashford's early form suggests he's becoming more efficient than he's been since 2020. But even with this hot start, there's one problem, one shadow from Manchester United that never disappeared. And if he doesn't solve that one issue, his Barcelona chapter might collapse before it truly begins. So what is the one problem Flick cannot afford Rashford to repeat? For weeks, everything about Marcus Rashford's Barcelona story looked like a fairy tale. The goals, the assists, the sudden sense that he belonged again. But if you followed his career closely, you'll know there's another side to the story. Because for Rashford, talent has never been the problem, discipline has. The warning signs first appeared back in Manchester. In 2023, Erik ten Hag famously dropped him for arriving late to a team meeting. It wasn't a huge scandal at the time, just a one-off mistake, people said. But then the pattern emerged. Reports of skipped training sessions, whispers of nights out stretching longer than they should, and pundits hinting at a lack of focus. Paul Scholes, a Manchester United legend, even called him a disgrace when his body language dipped during one of United's darkest stretches. Fast forward to Barcelona, and suddenly, history is repeating itself. The headlines after Newcastle and Sociedad were about his rebirth. The headlines weeks later that he'd been benched for being 2 minutes late. 2 minutes. On the surface, it may seem insignificant. However, in elite football, and especially at a club like Barcelona, those margins matter significantly. Flick has built his reputation on detail, on intensity, on absolute commitment to the cause. This isn't just about punctuality, it's about what lateness symbolizes. To Flick and to the dressing room, it signals whether you are truly locked in or not. And here's the irony, for all the goals and assists, Rashford could undo it all with one poor habit. Because in a team sculpted by Hansi Flick, where Rafinha rebuilt his career through discipline, where Yamal, at just 17, already knows that standards come before comfort, there's no room for shadows. So the question hangs in the air, is this the old Rashford, haunted by the same problems that poisoned his Manchester United chapter? Or is it just a blip in a bigger story of redemption? What happens next might decide not just his Barcelona career, but his entire legacy. Because the truth is, Hansi Flick doesn't care how many goals you score if you can't meet his standards. And if Rashford doesn't learn that lesson quickly, he won't get another lifeline. When Hansi Flick took over Barcelona, he wasn't just hired to fix tactics, he was hired to fix standards. This is a man who comes from the German school of coaching, where discipline isn't negotiable, it's the oxygen that keeps the system alive. Flick doesn't tolerate lateness, he doesn't tolerate complacency, and he doesn't tolerate stars who think they are bigger than the team. Just ask Rafinha. Under Xavi, the Brazilian was inconsistent, brilliant one game, and anonymous the next. He was drifting, relying on flashes of talent rather than consistent effort. Flick arrived and tore through that habit like a storm. Extra drills, tactical reshaping, clear demands. By the end of last season, Rafinha wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. More direct, more efficient, and finally living up to his potential. His reward? A top 5 finish in the Ballon d'Or. Or take Jules Koundé. There was a moment last year when frustration got the better of him, a heated reaction to being subbed off. Under a lenient coach, it would have been brushed off. Under Flick, immediate confrontation. Standards were reinforced, performances improved. Koundé learned quickly. Under Flick, discipline isn't a suggestion, it's a rule. Flick has demanded that Yamal turn his raw talent into decision-making efficiency, and that Pedri combine elegance with consistency. He's building a Barcelona side where no detail slips. And this is the world Marcus Rashford has walked into. It's not Manchester United, where headlines could be spun and excuses could be made. It's not the Premier League, where reputation sometimes buys you protection. This is Barcelona under Hansi Flick. And Flick doesn't care about your name, he cares about your habits. That's why being 2 minutes late isn't small. That's why body language matters. Flick knows that one relaxed standard can infect an entire squad, and he knows that without discipline, even the most talented player eventually collapses. For Rashford, this is the final examination. The goals are back, the assists are back, the magic is back. However, unless discipline accompanies it, none of it will matter. Because Hansi Flick has already proven he can rebuild stars. So the question Rashford must answer is whether he's a star with old scars who can rebuild himself. Rashford has been given the last great chance of his career. Flick has rebuilt players before. He's forged wingers into weapons, midfielders into engines, defenders into leaders. But Flick cannot give Rashford discipline. He cannot teach him hunger. That part has to come from within. So now the question is simple. Does Marcus Rashford learn from the ghosts of Manchester, or does he let them follow him into Catalonia? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. But here's something else you should know. Rashford isn't the only player on a lifeline this season. Check out this next video to find out these guys who have one season to prove to the world they still got the fight in them.